So today we will begin by setting the frame. Obviously, right now we are in a moment of enormous transition. We've just gone past the lockdown and the most acute moment globally in many ways, and we're entering a recovery phase, but we're also having the risk of second waves. So I am going to welcome Xavier Longan to introduce us to the bigger picture. Xavier is the lead for partnerships and operations at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Action Campaign. And so he has a global picture of sort of how this crisis is playing out and what opportunities it also presents from that broader agenda of advancing the Sustainable Development Goals. So Xavier, welcome.
Thank you very much, Ismail. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be part of this panel today. Let me start by saying that yes, what you see behind me is the design of a butterfly, and I will refer to this a bit later on. But I wanted to start by thanking you, Ismail, by thanking BookingLive for inviting me and for inviting us in the UN SDG Action Campaign to be part of this conversation today. We had the chance to meet you, Ismail, as I'm sure you'll remember, and to come across BookingLive during the Global Hackathon earlier this year. This was a global massive exercise to where the UN SDG Action Campaign collaborated and helped to co-organize, and which was designed to co-create solutions to tackle the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. And this was done in the very early days of the pandemic, in fact. So allow me to, first off, congratulate you again publicly, Ismail, you and BookingLive for winning the Solidarity in Action category of this global hackathon with the Coordinate-19 solution, and also for being the only British organization to make it to the top 10 amongst 15,000 participants globally, which is no small feat. Let me also say a very quick word about the UN SDG Action Campaign, about who we are. We are an interagency initiative of the UN Secretary General, and we are mandated basically to mobilize and inspire citizens, individuals, but also organizations to take action on the Sustainable Development Goals, which, as I'm sure everybody knows, were adopted by all the member states of the United Nations in the year 2015, with a target date for achieving them in 2030. And we're also mandated not just to mobilize, activate, and inspire, but also to connect these individuals and organizations with decision makers at all levels. So it's not much different in a way to what we're doing today. We're coming together, local governments, with other stakeholders, with other institutions, to seek solutions to work together and to connect with each other. Now we have been, since the beginning of the COVID pandemic, we have been doing a lot of thinking, as I'm sure you all have, on the challenges that this pandemic poses, but we've also been looking, and I think you mentioned that at the beginning, Ismail, we've also been looking very closely at what opportunities are emerging from the pandemic. What dynamic is the pandemic creating that we can leverage, not just to recover, but to make things better, to do things better, to change the way in which we operate, basically. And we have identified 4 opportunities, which I wanted to share quickly with you today. Now, the first opportunity is that the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, started as a political commitment but they are now urgent, concrete priorities claimed by people and by leaders everywhere. So if anything, the pandemic has shown that the SDGs encapsulate the pathway to more resilient societies and a more sustainable planet. So issues such as decent jobs, social protection, equal access to quality education, health services, also climate change, clean water, all these issues are now top imperatives, top priorities for people everywhere. So it's not an abstract agenda anymore. These things are real, and these things are being demanded by people everywhere. So what we see is that on the one hand, local governments are at the receiving end of this demand, of the demand for action and delivery on these very areas. But at the same time, on the other hand, these same local governments can also, are key also to more directly and efficiently tap onto these new audiences, which are now much more aware and much more sensitive to the goals, to the Sustainable Development Goals, and to what they represent. So there is an opportunity here to work together, to sort of rebuild the trust between the citizens and institutions and work together. Now, a second opportunity that we have identified is that transformative change is now possible. So until recently, the transformative changes required to achieve the 2030 agenda and the goals themselves were perceived as too costly, too difficult, etc. But with the pandemic, what we're seeing with COVID, with the impact of COVID-19, we're seeing that there is a debate that is being fueled, and there is a momentum with the potential to achieve and even accelerate a global transformation. Now, local governments and their constituents have an opportunity now, which we didn't have before, to reimagine our societies, reimagine our economies, reimagining our governance, to realize not just short-term gains, but also long-term commitments to human rights, to sustainability, and to mutual benefit. Now, so at the local level, from safe cycle routes across cities, sustainable building projects, to the digital transformation of citizen engagement, so that local services are accessible to everyone, necessity has made the public sector creative. And this creativity, we feel, must be nurtured to outlive the crisis. So in short, what I'm trying to say is that business as usual is no longer an option. And that takes me to the third opportunity, which is that through a butterfly effect, individual action can unleash tremendous power. And that's why I have this butterfly behind me, because we have seen that the COVID-19 response has shown again and again consistently that the impact of individual action and individual behavior in addressing complex global challenges can make a massive, massive difference. So we've seen how by taking individual action, be it physical distancing, be it washing our hands, be it staying at home, by taking individual action, people in many countries all over the world have managed to flatten the curve and save millions of lives. This is very important because we as a campaign, we advocate for individual action, and we've been advocating for a long time on the power of the individual, the power of the crowd to really have a global impact. And now I think that the COVID-19 and individual action in terms of contributing to flatten the curve is the perfect illustration of that, how local action can have this global impact. Also, around the world, people have inspired and comforted each other with simple, spontaneous acts of solidarity, of heroism that are sustaining lives and communities. So again, this illustrates with stark clarity that local action can have global impact and that local level policies can play a pivotal role in changing global trends. Now, let me refer to the fourth and final opportunity, and I'll start my conclusion here. The fourth opportunity we have identified is that global solidarity, again, is no longer an abstraction, just like the SDGs, but it is now an imperative, a priority for people everywhere in their daily lives. So a spontaneous solidarity movement is emerging. I think there is little question about that. Now, this is lifting hopes that more unites us than divides us. And that also links up with other social movements. And we've seen that with Black Lives Matter in the States, and other movements that where there is an undercurrent of solidarity, of helping each other. So that can all work together for a better world. And channeled well, this movement is a very powerful force to respond to the pandemic and to advance local and global cooperation grounded in the values of global cooperation, of multilateralism, universality, and interconnectedness. So local governments and local stakeholders from all sectors can jointly affect change by leveraging this momentum, by riding this wave, basically, this solidarity wave, and supporting local institutions to the current challenges. Now, the crisis is showing, in our view, that there is a turning point at hand, that we are at a crossroads, and we need to leverage this turning point for people and planet, where the recovery efforts can be guided by the SDGs and the 2030 Agenda, and can be inspired by local action and local stakeholders working together in solidarity. That's why we're inviting local governments everywhere in the UK, but also all over the world, as well as individuals and organizations, to join the Global Week to Act for SDGs this September, at the occasion of the General Assembly, but also at the occasion of the commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the United Nations and the 5th anniversary of the adoption of the SDGs. We aims this global mobilization precisely at showing that we're stronger together, and also that we want to demand a just and sustainable recovery. Let me close by thanking again you, Ismail, by thanking BookingLive, and also by saying that I'm truly honored to share this sort of virtual stage with the Deputy Mayor of Bristol, Asher Craig. We are aware, painfully, of how much the United Kingdom has been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, by the COVID-19 crisis, the high toll that the pandemic is having on the UK. And we sincerely hope that we can draw inspiration and strength from the resilience and strength shown by cities and citizens in the UK. And as I said, I hope that we can together contribute to a just recovery for people and planet, with the SDGs at the center and leaving no one behind. Thank you.